Namaste, welcome to episode 13. In episode 12, I stopped with Agneya Chakra. How you can use prana and pranayama, bhuta shuddhi and nadi shuddhi to highest levels up to this level in individual consciousness. We have to detail a little more on that. Essentially, in Patanjali Yoga, you are using prana as the Shakti. Okay. The life force as a Shakti to take you to higher evolution, to develop yourself, to transform yourself, to move towards Paramatma, Kaivalya. Here, as I said, when you use Bhuta Shuddhi and Nadi Shuddhi as the mechanisms to do this, primarily what you do is you sort of disassemble the Panchabhuta in the hardest form it is to thinner forms. While you are still keeping your life force intact and enhancing the strength of your life force, parallelly the Panchabhuta is getting thinner. Okay. And I also said that you can plasticity and limbidity are the two ways to sense what is happening in yourself. And at some point of time that you will get hold of the inner sense and you should be able to use the inner sense, pratyahara, that is feeding you, inner feed, not the external feed, but the inner feed that is feeding you, to make quantum leaps in terms of Bhuta Shuddhi and Prana Shuddhi, Bhuta Shuddhi and Nadi Shuddhi, using Prana Shakti. Ability to move from just the Pancha Prana, okay, consolidating the Udana, which is the movement up, and Samana, which is the balancing part, right from bottom to top. Okay. So in this, there are two milestones in this methodology of using the prana, Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi, and Pranayama. There are two significant milestones, okay, which I want to highlight here. One is when you have mastered the Pancha Prana, okay, you reach a certain level of wellness. Okay. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, and Samana. Vyana means going all over the place, your systemic corrections and all that. Udana is now aligning the flow upwards. Aligning the flow upwards. Not only are you aligning the flow upwards, you are also balancing it. And you are balancing it, you are also centering it. That means along the spine. So Udana and Samana together are actually aligning and bringing it up, bringing the Prana Shakti up. Okay. So when the Prana Shakti is becoming very strong, that you are able to do Udana and Samana up to the neck level. Okay. Thyroid gland downwards, all of them are in great condition from a physiological perspective. Okay. Moving up, okay, when you have to take the prana up and you are able to hold this, your prana shakti at the eyebrow level, okay, at this level, that means you are breathing from here. You are not breathing from the mouth, you are not breathing from the nostrils, you are breathing from here, which has got direct relation to the cerebellum, brain, which supports the respiratory synchronized respiratory system here. Then your prana shakti is probably much higher than what you do here. That's why you say that when you do the prana shakti, you want to move from here to here. You shouldn't waste your prana. That means when you speak out, your prana is directed out. You don't speak out. When you breathe through the nostrils, your prana is being exhaled out. The prana that is coming through your nadis are get exhaled out. Okay. But then that's the way you live, isn't it? You speak, you sing, you chant mantras. Okay. So there's a different level of dealing with prana when you have to move up from here to here. At this level, you are able to use your inner sense to maximize your pancha prana. At this level, you are using your inner sense to maximize what is called as the dasha prana. Dasha means 10. Okay. What are the dasha pranas? The 5 main pranas for your wellness plus 5 upa pranas. There are 5 upa pranas which are only moving up here. It is getting distributed in the facial region. Okay, it's moving up. Okay. I'll just name them for you to be familiar with. Okay. One is called Devadatta. Devadatta is the prana which causes sneezing. Okay. And active respiration. Devadatta is giving you an active respiration at this level. You are not breathing very low level. Naga. Naga is another upaprana which looks at belching and hiccups. Vikal we call it in Tamil. Belching and hiccup. Krikala is yawning. Yawning. When you yawn, when the prana, the air that is blocked inside is pushed out, that is krikala. Kurma is the one which is supposed to be helping blinking and all that. Okay, blinking the eyes. And Dhananjaya is the sense of touch. Okay. The sense of touch that happens here is being pushed into the sensory nervous system through what is called as the Dhananjaya form of prana moving up. So this upaprana is generally not talked about because many people don't even cross the milestone of understanding the pancha prana. So when you cross the understanding of the pancha prana, then we are talking about pancha upaprana, associated pranas. Because prana basically moves up. So all these are supposed to be moving up. Okay. Taking up nadi shuddhis that happen. Okay. So when it is here, like you have mastered the pancha pranas here with your inner pratyahara, sense of self and sense of control, here you are having all the 10 pranas. You are in your control. You are able to sense and control all your 10 pranas from here. So the 10 pranas plus the sense of self, which is Brahman. And what is Brahman means? Basically consciousness. We'll see later. But the inner self, the 6th sense. Now it becomes the 11th sense here. It is 10 pranas plus the 11th sense. Okay. So one of the Upanishads calls the mastery of the 10 pranas, okay, and the inner sense at this level, okay, is mastering Rudra. Very interestingly. Because at this level, the pancha pranas which have controlled your action organs and these pancha pranas which has controlled your sense organs, perception organs, with that you are able to control, you are able to sense and control. Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Okay. And then therefore with that sense you are able to do here control. That means you have complete control on whatever is happening below this level of your body. You are able to sense and control the whole thing. For example, if you are doing a self-chat, when you sit quiet, there is a self-chat here that happens. Okay. That self-chat happens here. When you speak, to decide to speak or not to speak is controlled here. To decide to breathe or not to breathe is controlled here. To decide whether to see or not to see is controlled here. To decide to hear or not to hear is controlled here. So all the control points, this is something like a central control point that they say. That means not necessarily in the forehead, but from here you can say it's the center of this skull, the cranial region. Okay. In that central region, you are able to control that. That means you have a complete control and mastery of all that is happening here. You may not have control on this yet, totally. But then if you are having control here, the nervous system which is in charge of sensing and controlling here in the brain, you have control on that. Please understand. Because control here doesn't mean it's in isolation. The nervous system, as we said, there are senses that are moving up and there are actions, the trigger for actions are going down. Okay. And there was a lot of control which is already happening, but those points of sensing and control are essentially to do with all the organs and functions that are below this. There's a lot more above. Okay. So the vision, that's the using the prana shakti, how you are able to do that. Okay. So dasa prana plus sense is named in one of the Upanishads as Ekadasha Rudra, the 11 Rudras. Okay. And pancha prana plus the sixth sense, Brahman, plus Surya and Chandra, the Surya Nadi and Chandra Nadi, as they say. That means you are able to control the two nadis up to this place. Okay. Yes, then as Ashtavasus, 8 Vasudeva. Okay. That's in the Vedic system, in that Upanishad. In that Upanishad, which is connecting Vedas with this system of prana, okay, calls Vasudeva here, Rudra here, and then later it goes Aditya, Indra, Prajapati and all that stuff. Okay, that goes Prajapati is here. That's an association, a Vedantic association of Vedic concepts with this Ashtanga Yoga procedural concepts. Okay, so there is a mapping that happens there. Okay. Now, the prana, how do you take this prana further up? Okay. You are here, right? You have controlled all, you are in complete control of everything. So when you talk about complete control, what we are also talking about is what is called as Ishvaratvam. Ishvara is controller, supreme controller. Okay. Ishvaratvam, Ishitvam, Ishatvam, these are all words which designate controllership. Okay. So you're able to sense and control the whole thing. So you master a lot of things in terms of, okay. So definitely at this level, your praneshwara, ability to control your prana is very high. Nadi Shuddhis and Bhuta Shuddhis have happened, okay, and you have done that. Now what they do is that your ability to control, take the prana upwards, depends on how long can you hold. Okay, and then center it inside a little bit. Okay, so and then start manipulating the brain neural networks, the spins that are happening in your brain, all those spins that are happening in your network. Okay, those are rhythms, brain rhythms. Okay, the brain rhythms are to be controlled. Okay, the rhythms in Sanskrit would be equated to laya. Laya is rhythm. So the brain rhythms are sought to be controlled by prana laya. That means the way you breathe, inhale, exhale. Okay, how deep you inhale, how deep you exhale. You use this inhale, exhale, hold, release mechanism to start getting control on the laya, the rhythms that are happening, not just in breathing, but the breathing is only a mechanism by which you are doing it, but actually you are creating a rhythm here, controlling a rhythm there. So how long can it be to inhale, how long can it be to exhale, and how long can it be to hold when you have inhaled completely, and how long can you hold when you have exhaled completely. These are the four mechanisms by which you start working on your brain network. And that brain network, by that you can slow it down. You can slow down the brain frequency. Okay? And when you slow down the brain frequency, you not only start to control your mind, working of the mind, okay, but you are also able to control your sense of self, the identity, the aham, the ahamkaram, emotions and all that. So this pranalaya is used for controlling your brain activity. Okay, and again in that you need to worry about samana. The samana has to be, the right balancing has to be done. So the laya is the mechanism, prana laya is the mechanism by which you start creating samana in your brain, the nervous activity, the nerve activity or the brain neural activity. Okay? And then using the same sense, inner sense, the sixth sense, okay, using the sixth sense you can recognize what is happening, and then you should be, you sort of get to know how to control it also. Sensing, acting, both happen here. Okay, and when you are able to do that, then you are able to not only center it, balance, and here you have to balance left, right, all the 6 lobes of brains that you will see in the neural network. 6 lobes of this, the cerebral cortex. Because here, when you are talking about controlling here, you already got control on your cerebellum, which is the one which is adhomukham, as they say, one that is looking at your animal instincts. But here you are looking at your human part, human, and then how to make it divine and all that stuff. So there, you control the laya, you control the networks, the spin, how they work and all that stuff. And again, Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi will take you from the gross level Panchabhuta mixing to thinning to so on and so forth. Okay, so 2 things are happening here. The Nadi Shuddhi, Bhuta Shuddhi is continuing to thin several cells, several matter, energy part in the body, particularly in the brain when you're dealing with pranalaya. And aligning, the further alignment continues to happen, not at holding breath here, but then it's slightly going center of your brain, midbrain region. Okay, and it's little above the midbrain region is the pineal and pituitary gland, and therefore you start impacting that as well. Okay, from a neurophysiology point of view. But from a pure neural network point of view, you are controlling the spins, okay, and you are slowing it down, the brain waves as they say, okay, and slow it down, okay, and then you are able to hold it. You are holding it in a samana state in the center one, okay. Then there are further improvements that are happening in terms of your evolution, okay, and then here, if you are able to control from here, like you controlled from here, like you controlled from here, if you are able to control from here, okay, that means you got the best potential in your human, as a human being, okay. This, and if you look at brain, there is something called the total somatic sensing and controllership is at the highest level here in the brain. If you look at brain biology and then look at what functions are happening, somatic sensing and control, complete control is here, okay. So you are able to get that sensing and controlling there at that level. Then after using prana, and you are able to get that Ishwaratvam, okay, of Praneshwara, you move up and then you get Ishwaratvam here, okay, and that is called Maheshwara in the Vedic mapping, okay, Maheshwara, Mahadeva, because by the time sound, light, everything gets aligned, okay, and the amount of plasticity and limbidity is so high, everything is very clear, nothing gets distracted, nothing gets dissipated, all your Shaktis, okay, like they say Kundalini Shakti, which is in Mooladhara, which reaches the Shiva here, Nadam, which is supposed to be originating from Manipuraka, okay, now it has become, Nadam has become, we'll discuss that yoga specifically, but Nadam has come up, and then Nada Antam has happened here, and then it has gone up here, okay. Jyoti, the light pranas, light means light, 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 photonic lights, physical, that has sort of come together, and the Vibgyor that people talk about has become white light here. All those things have happened, Mahadeva, okay. So there are several systems which equate these individual concepts to this, okay. But ultimately your ability to control your whole process from here, with aided by Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi, Prana Laya, okay, brainwave frequencies manipulating and then stilling the brain activity, You can't do that, but you can go up to zero point 0.5 hertz, okay, which is like uh, deep sleep kind of stuff, but you are still aware that you are alert, you are not sleeping, okay, and that is the turiya state. So the inner sense, which started from what I said as hunger and thirst and sensing the animal drives, has now become strong enough to go and uh, to control the entire human being, okay, and that jnana shakti, jnana shakti and kriya shakti, that keeps going up and down, when it reaches that level, okay, there is complete control on all the somatic sensing and all the somatic motor activities, okay, that's the highest you can take, okay. When that happens, a lot of things happen simultaneously. You must now start to understand that simultaneously several things are happening irrespective of which path, which practice, which sadhana you are doing it. Okay, I can map every sadhana that I have heard about and that I have understood to this basic Ashtanga Yoga practice. Okay, you can do that. There is a Shakta Marga which I can map. There is a Vedic Devata Shastra that I can map. Okay, you can do that. Okay, I want to leave this as a closing thing, because in the bargain, simultaneously, what happens is that when the consciousness strengthens from simple inner sense in the pratyahara, goes up to be able to sense higher intensity of sensing combined with higher intensity of controlling, moves up to the brain, and then complete somatic sensing and control that can happen here, then you are ready to let go of the control, or pin the control and leave it there, and then you can take the sensing much further, okay, in which case you get into pure consciousness. So the consciousness is said to grow from inner sensing, external sensing, to inner sensing, to at this level, okay, you lose all your senses of your being an individual. Okay, there is individualized consciousness. You transcend that individual consciousness, and here the qualitative nature of brain, due to Bhuta Shuddhi and Nadi Shuddhi and Pranalaya, and the functioning which has been slowed down by the brain, makes the brain able to become conscious of things which are outside what's happening. He said placidity and nimbidity can suit to the environment outside. So you start responding to what is happening outside in the cosmos. Okay, so that becomes cosmic consciousness. Not only are you able to sense and control here what is happening inside the body, you are able to sense and control what is outside your body as well. Okay, you get complete mastery over the Panchabhuta, and you are able to deal with that. That is where the Siddhas come in. Okay, people who are able to materialize something from thin air, how does it happen? That happens there. It's not for everyone, but at least if you know the science behind this, that is good enough. In this, the purpose is served in these YouTubes. Okay, so you move from creating wellness to happiness to sukha and all that stuff, to transcending individualized consciousness here to cosmic consciousness, both in terms of consciousness and ability to do jnana shakti and kriya shakti, and then getting to highest level here when you are a Mahadeva, Maheshwara, where you are talking about complete control of your somatic, psychosomatic actually, because psychology, mind is also controlled there. Complete psychosomatic sensing and control here. You can sense your emotions, you can control them as well. You talk about when you can sense your thought and control your thoughts as well. You can sense your inner happenings in the organs, you can control them. So your whole body mind consciousness complex is in complete control through your sensing of consciousness and doing that. Here it is restricted to your individual self. Beyond this, it can expand to knowing and controlling and creating things outside. Okay. But then it's a little more you need to go. You need to even transcend that. Okay. So ultimately what they say is that when you give up this sensing and controlling, doing, sensing and doing, when you give up your jnana shakti, and when you give up your jnana shakti and kriya shakti, Because all this is because there is a Icha Shakti that is happening, the desire that seems to be inbuilt in you, and then later you develop based on, driven by your desire, you develop yourself, okay, and then you see that there is a lot more this body can do in terms of ability to control yourself and ability to control outside, okay. Then you said, okay, what next? Then the only way is you give up your desire. Give up your desire to sense, to control this matter, energy, space, time world. Okay, and when you desire to when you give up your desire to sense and control the matter, energy, space, time in this environment, including yourself, which is an entity in that, then you transcend to the next level, which is called Shuddha Sattva, and then that is called Moksha. Okay. And then from Shuddha Sattva you are moving into Para. Okay. Moksha is Vaikuntha Loka, Shiva Loka, where you and Paramatma are different. That is where you get into Vedantic discussions. Okay, is Paramatma and Atma different? Till such time it doesn't really matter. That is Atma Anubhuti, knowing your own self, who your self is. Okay, so get into that in Shuddha Sattva, and from there you go to Para. Okay, that is the ultimate. Para is Parabrahman, Nirguna Brahman, Parameshwara, Parandhama. Okay, Bhagavan, Creator, Almighty, etc., etc. Okay, so when you have experienced all this, when you have grown into this through the sensing mechanisms, controlling, so at the end of the day, when you realize that I had to give up my desire to sense and control things in me and outside, okay, then you transcend cosmos, and you enter into what is the source of the cosmos, okay, which is Shuddha Sattva. Now there are scientific concepts which I have not mapped, which I will map in a separate session. Okay. And then once you know that you are the pure Atma, you are the pure consciousness. The Purusha is free from Prakriti. That is Moksha, that is Vaikuntha Loka, that is Shiva Loka. You be there as a Nitya Suri or a Shiva Gana, okay, without getting back into any form of rebirth, samsara chakra inside here. That's the ultimate, that's a penultimate milestone. And that is good enough for a human being. I mean, if you are able to reach that, that is great. But then the science says there is a little more. Okay, Paramatma himself is there. Okay, and then some people say we can't become Paramatma, therefore there is duality, Dvaita. Some people say no, Nirguna Brahman is Paramatma, and if you are becoming Nirguna, then you are there. You are as good as that. Those are interpretations of intellectual nature that we can leave for the time being. Okay, so for completeness sake, I am mentioning it, but you can go there. But ultimately, moksha is getting complete control of complete mastery of able to sense and control the matter, energy, space, time, dark matter, dark energy that is forming the cosmos, which is individualized in you, taking complete control, exiting out of that into the common source of everything, including all elements in cosmos, which is the Shuddha Sattva state, okay, and having moksha. So with that, as we say in our Hindu worship mode, with that Bhagavat Smarane, by remembering that ultimate God, Paramatma, at this stage, I conclude the first step of introductory YouTubes. The details of mapping into science and all that can come later, but if you have understood so far, I am blessed, you are blessed. Parameshwaraya Namaha.